Have you ever met someone who's been saving money religiously for 20 years and still isn't wealthy? They clip coupons. They skip the daily coffee. They pride themselves on finding deals. They've got a decent amount in their savings account. But somehow, they're not actually rich. They're just less broke than they used to be. Here's what nobody tells you about saving money. Saving alone will never make you wealthy. It's mathematically impossible. You can save every penny, live on rice and beans, drive a 20-year-old car, and you'll still end up in basically the same financial position you started in, just older. Here at Simple Money, we've watched thousands of people try to save their way to wealth, and we've discovered something that most financial advice completely ignores. Saving is defense. Wealth requires offense. Today, I'm going to reveal why the people who focus only on saving are running on a treadmill, and what you actually need to do to get rich. Here's what's really happening when you focus all your energy on saving. You're playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And in the game of wealth building, those are completely different strategies with completely different outcomes. Think about it this way. Imagine you're trying to fill a bathtub, but there's a small leak in the bottom. You can run to the store and buy the cheapest water possible. You can measure every drop to make sure you're not wasting any. You can take hours choosing the most efficient bucket. But if the faucet is barely dripping, that bathtub is never going to fill. No matter how careful you are with the water, that faucet is your income. The leak is your expenses. And saving is just the attempt to minimize the leak. But here's the brutal truth. For most people, there's only so much you can cut. You need food, you need shelter, you need transportation, you need clothes. You can optimize these expenses, sure, but there's a floor, a minimum. And once you hit that floor, you can't save anymore. Meanwhile, your income has almost no ceiling. You can earn 10% more, 50% more, double, triple, 10 times more. There's no theoretical limit to how much you can increase the flow coming into your financial life. But most people spend all their energy trying to plug a leak that can only get so small, instead of opening the faucet wider. Let me give you some real numbers to show you how insane this is. Let's say you make $50,000 a year. You're really disciplined. You manage to save 20% of your income. That's $10,000 a year. Honestly, that's better than most people. You should feel good about that level of discipline. So you save $10,000 a year for 20 years? That's $200,000, right? Except it's not. Because that money is just sitting there. Maybe earning 1% in a savings account. Maybe a bit more if you're lucky, but basically it's not growing. It's not working for you. It's just accumulating. After 20 years of intense discipline and sacrifice, you've got maybe $220,000. That sounds like a lot, until you realize you're now 20 years older. Inflation has eaten into that money's purchasing power. And $220,000 isn't retirement money. It's not quit your job money. It's not financial freedom money. It's just a decent emergency fund. You spent 20 years denying yourself, optimizing every purchase, stressing about every expense, and you ended up with a safety net, not wealth, just the absence of immediate financial danger. Now let me introduce you to what I call the saving ceiling. This is the first reason why saving alone will never make you rich. The saving ceiling is the mathematical limit of how much you can actually save from your income without literally becoming homeless. Here's what I mean. Let's say you make that $50,000 a year. After taxes, you're taking home maybe $38,000. Now you need to live, rent, or mortgage. Food, transportation, insurance, basic clothing, utilities, healthcare. For most people in most places, these non-negotiable expenses eat up at least $25,000 to $30,000 a year, probably more. So even if you live an extremely minimalist lifestyle, eating rice and beans, never going out, wearing the same clothes for years, you can maybe save $10,000 to $15,000 a year. That's your ceiling. You literally cannot save more than that without becoming destitute. And here's the cruel part. That ceiling doesn't change much even if you're more disciplined. You can clip every coupon, shop every sale, negotiate every bill. Maybe you save an extra $1,000 or $2,000, but you're still hitting a hard limit that's determined by your income, not by your willpower. Meanwhile, there's no ceiling on earning. Someone making $50,000 can learn new skills and make $75,000. Or start a side business and make an extra 20,000. Or switch careers and make 100,000. Or build something valuable and make 200,000. The ceiling doesn't exist on the income side, but our entire culture is obsessed with the savings side. Every article is about cutting expenses. Every tip is about spending less. Every piece of advice is about being more frugal. It's like we're all trying to solve the bathtub problem by measuring water drops more carefully instead of just turning up the faucet. This is why you see people who've been good with money for decades and still aren't rich. They hit their savings ceiling years ago, and now they're just maintaining it, staying disciplined, feeling responsible, but not actually building wealth. Because you can't save your way past the ceiling. The second reason saving alone fails is what I call the inflation trap. This one is particularly cruel because most people don't even realize it's happening to them. They think they're making progress when they're actually treading water, or worse, slowly drowning. Here's the thing about money sitting in a savings account. It's losing value every single day. The number in your account might stay the same or even go up slightly. But what that money can actually buy is going down. That's inflation. And it's not theoretical. It's not maybe. It's constant and inevitable. Over the last few decades, inflation has averaged around 3% per year. Some years less, some years way more. But let's just use 3% as a baseline. If you have $10,000 in a savings account earning 1% interest, you're gaining $100 in interest. But you're losing $300 in purchasing power. Net result? You're $200 poorer every single year. Now multiply that by 20 years. You're not preserving your wealth by keeping it in savings. You're actively destroying it, slowly, invisibly, while feeling responsible and careful. The number goes up, but the value goes down. And most people never realize this is happening until they try to actually use that money and discover it doesn't go as far as they thought it would. Think about what you could buy 20 years ago versus what you can buy today with the same amount of money. A house that cost $200,000 might now cost $400,000. A car that cost $20,000 might now cost $40,000. College tuition, healthcare, everything has gone up. Your savings account balance going from $50,000 to $55,000 over 5 years isn't progress. It's losing ground in slow motion. This is the trap. Saving feels safe. It feels responsible. You can see your balance. You can point to it and say, I'm being smart with money. But that safety is an illusion. You're not actually preserving wealth. You're just slowly diluting it while telling yourself you're doing the right thing. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The third reason is what I call the opportunity cost crisis. This one might blow your mind because it's about what you're not seeing. The invisible cost of being too safe. Every dollar you have sitting in a savings account, earning 1%, is a dollar that's not invested earning 7 or 8 or 10%. Every year that money sits there being safe, you're not just earning less, you're missing out on compound growth, on years of returns, stacking on top of returns, on wealth that could have been building while you sleep. Let me show you how devastating this actually is. Take that same $10,000, put it in a savings account earning 1%. In 30 years, you'll have about $13,500. You made $3,500. Congratulations. That's less than you'd make working minimum wage for a couple months. Now take that same $10,000. Invest it in a broad market index fund earning an average of 8% per year. In 30 years, you'll have about $100,000. You made $90,000 from the same initial investment, same time frame. The only difference is where you put it. That $86,500 difference isn't just money. It's opportunities. It's security. It's freedom. It's the ability to retire comfortably instead of scraping by. And you gave it up because saving felt safer than investing. But here's what makes this even more insidious. Most people aren't just doing this with one lump sum. They're doing it with every paycheck. Every month, they're saving money instead of investing it. Every month, they're choosing the guaranteed loss of purchasing power over the historically proven path to wealth. For years, decades, the opportunity cost isn't just the difference in returns on $10,000. It's the difference in returns on hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. It's millions of dollars in potential wealth that never materialized because saving felt safer than growing. The fourth reason saving alone fails is the time theft. This one is about something nobody talks about. When you focus only on saving, you're not just limiting your wealth. You're stealing time from your future self. Here's what I mean. Wealth isn't just about money. It's about freedom, options, the ability to stop trading your time for money, to retire, to pursue things that matter to you, to not worry about every expense. Real wealth buys you time, your most valuable and limited resource. But when you only save, you're extending the number of years you have to work. You're pushing your financial freedom further into the future. You're stealing years of potential retirement or career flexibility, or pursuing passion projects because you never built enough wealth to make those things possible. Let's say your goal is to have enough money to retire comfortably. You need about $1 million generating returns to supplement Social Security and maintain your lifestyle. If you're saving $10,000 a year in a savings account, you will literally never reach $1 million. Not in your lifetime. The math just doesn't work. But if you're investing $15,000 a year and earning 8% average returns, you'll hit $1 million in about 30 years. That's the difference between retiring at 65 versus never being able to retire. Between having freedom at 65 versus working until you physically can't anymore. Every year you spend saving instead of investing, you're adding years to the end of your working life. You're trading future freedom for present perceived safety. And most people don't realize they're making this trade until it's too late to change course. The fifth reason might be the most painful. I call it the wealth illusion. This is when you mistake financial stability for financial success. When you confuse not being broke with being rich. Here's the thing. Saving money can get you to stable. It can get you to not stressed about every bill. It can get you to having an emergency fund that protects you from disasters. And that's genuinely valuable. That's genuinely better than living paycheck to paycheck. But it's not wealth. Wealth is when your money makes money. When your assets generate income. When you have more coming in than going out without having to trade your time for it. Wealth is passive income exceeding your expenses. Wealth is financial independence. And you don't get there by just accumulating cash. Most people save for decades and then look at their account and think I'm doing okay. I've got $80,000 saved. That's more than most people. I should feel successful. But $80,000 isn't success. It's not enough to retire on. It's not enough to stop working. It's not even enough for a down payment on a house in many cities. It's just not being broke, and we've confused not being broke with being wealthy. This illusion is dangerous because it makes people complacent. They think they're on the right track because they're better off than they used to be. They don't realize they're still nowhere near their actual goal. They don't realize they need to fundamentally change their strategy, not just continue doing what they've been doing. But here's what nobody wants to admit. The reason most financial advice focuses on saving is because it's easy to teach and hard to screw up. Cut your expenses. Spend less than you earn. Build an emergency fund. These are simple rules that anyone can follow. They work for everyone, regardless of circumstance. But earning more, investing, building income streams, those are harder, more complex, more intimidating. They require learning, taking risks, stepping outside your comfort zone. They can't be reduced to simple rules that work for everyone, so most financial advice just ignores them and focuses on the safe, simple stuff, the saving stuff. And this creates a whole generation of people who are really good at being frugal, but really bad at being wealthy. Who can stretch a dollar but can't grow a dollar? Who know every trick to spend less but have no idea how to earn more? Who are disciplined and responsible and still broke? Just broke with an emergency fund. Let me tell you about two people who show this perfectly. We'll call them Amy and Chen. Both are 35 years old. Both have been focused on their finances for 10 years. Both started with basically nothing. Amy is the saving champion. She's read every personal finance book. She's got spreadsheets tracking every expense. She knows exactly where every dollar goes. She's cut her spending to the bone. No cable TV, no eating out. She brings lunch to work every single day. She shops at thrift stores. She drives a 15-year-old car that she maintains herself. Every month, Amy saves $800. She's so disciplined, so focused, so responsible. She feels really good about this. She's doing everything right according to all the mainstream advice. She's living below her means, building her emergency fund, being smart with money. 10 years pass. Amy has saved $96,000. That's incredible discipline. Most people can't do that. She should be proud. And she is proud. She looks at that number and feels successful. She's got almost 6 figures saved. She's way ahead of her peers who are still living paycheck to paycheck. But then Amy sits down to actually plan her future. She wants to buy a house. She wants to retire someday. She wants financial security. And she does the math. $96,000 isn't enough for a down payment in her city. It's definitely not enough to retire on. If she keeps doing exactly what she's been doing, she'll have maybe $400,000 by retirement age. And that's not enough either. Amy is confused, frustrated. She did everything right. She made every sacrifice. She was so disciplined. How is she still not on track for the life she wants? What went wrong? Now, let's talk about Chen. Chen also started focusing on finances at 25. But Chen took a different approach. Sure, Chen was mindful about spending, had a budget, lived reasonably. But Chen wasn't obsessed with cutting every expense. That wasn't the focus. Instead, Chen focused on earning, on growing, on building. Chen spent time learning skills that would increase income, took online courses, learned to code, built a portfolio, got certifications. After 2 years, Chen's salary went from $45,000 to $65,000. That's $20,000 more per year. Way more than could ever be saved by cutting expenses. But Chen didn't stop there. Chen started investing early. Nothing fancy, just simple index funds. Chen automated $500 a month going straight from paycheck to investment account. Never saw it, never missed it, just kept living on what was left. Chen also started a side business. Nothing huge, just freelancing on weekends using the skills learned from those courses. It brought in an extra $1,500 a month. Not enough to quit the day job, but enough to massively accelerate wealth building. 10 years pass. Chen's salary is now $90,000 because of continued skill development and strategic job changes. The side business now generates $3,000 a month and mostly runs itself. And those investments? The ones that started with $500 a month and gradually increased? They're worth about $140,000. But here's the real difference. Chen's not just wealthier in terms of net worth. Chen has income streams, multiple sources of money coming in. The investments are growing and generating dividends. The side business creates income without trading time for it. The higher salary provides security and flexibility. Chen can invest $2,000 a month now, maybe more. The trajectory is completely different. In another 10 years, Chen will likely be financially independent, have over $1 million in investments, have multiple income sources, have real wealth, not just savings, actual wealth. Same starting point as Amy, same 10-year time frame, but completely different outcomes. Amy focused on defense, Chen focused on offense. Amy tried to minimize the leak. Chen opened the faucet. Amy saved her way to stability. Chen earned and invested her way to wealth. Here's what most people don't realize. The difference between Amy and Chen isn't about discipline or responsibility or being good with money. They're both disciplined. They're both responsible. They both care about their finances. The difference is strategy, what they chose to focus on, where they invested their energy. It's not actually about saving versus not saving. It's about understanding that saving is step one, not the whole strategy. Saving gets you stable, gets you out of paycheck to paycheck, gets you an emergency fund. And that's crucial. That's the foundation. But once you have that foundation, continuing to just save is like building a foundation and then never constructing the house. The real path to wealth is this. Save enough to have stability. Build an emergency fund. Get out of high-interest debt. That's your foundation. But then shift your focus. Start investing. Start earning more. Start building income streams. Start making your money work for you instead of just protecting it. Wealthy people aren't wealthy because they're better at saving. They're wealthy because they're better at growing. They understand that you can only cut expenses so much, but you can increase income infinitely. They understand that money sitting still is money dying slowly. They understand that real wealth comes from assets that appreciate and generate income, not from cash that depreciates in purchasing power. This is why you can meet two people with similar incomes and wildly different wealth levels. One focused on saving every penny, the other focused on growing every dollar. One optimized for feeling secure today, the other optimized for being wealthy tomorrow. One played defense, the other played offense, and offense wins. The saving ceiling, the inflation trap, the opportunity cost crisis, time theft, and the wealth illusion. These aren't character flaws. They're not personal failures. They're predictable patterns that happen when you focus only on saving, when you mistake the foundation for the house, when you confuse stability with wealth. The question isn't whether you can save more money. The question is whether you're willing to shift your focus from just protecting what you have to actually growing it. Whether you can see that the real risk isn't losing money to a bad investment. The real risk is losing decades of potential wealth because you were too scared to let your money grow. Whether you can accept that real wealth requires you to stop playing defense and start playing offense. Because here's the truth. Saving is important, crucial even, but it's not enough. It never was. And once you see that, once you understand that wealthy people focus on earning and investing while everyone else focuses on saving and cutting, you can't unsee it. The whole game changes, and so does your financial future.